Well, good morning to you. It is a Tuesday. It's December the 8th, and we're glad to have you with us on Up to the Minute. I'm Todd Duplantis. We've got your HCC news and information and then some here on the show. Next half hour or so, sit back, grab a cup of coffee, and enjoy the show. We'll keep you up to date with everything you need to know HCC-wise. We've got two guests coming up, but first I want to introduce my co-host this morning, Brittany Pacheco at her home studio. Good morning, Brittany.
Hey, good morning, Todd, and good morning to everyone. And I'm talking to you. Well, he just moved out of frame. Todd, you had a little photo bomber behind you in the form of a furry friend.
That would be Jack Andrew. He tries to make a photo bomb on the show. He would be the one to do that.
Yeah, well, good morning to him too. But once again, good morning to everyone joining us for this morning's episode of Up to the Minute. I like to call it Monday Junior. You'll understand why later. But anyway, I do want to remind everyone to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, as well as to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Be sure to hit that notification bell so you can be the first to find out the latest upload from HCC. And last but not least, I do want to remind everyone to please share this podcast. Share this podcast so that we can not only grow our audience, but we always want to make sure that people who are not following us on social media know what is going on inside HCC. So Todd, I am very excited for today's episode. Our guests who are joining us, let's get into it.
All right. Thanks, Brittany. We'll check in with you in a little while. But first, we've got some guests joining us this morning. Sean Fitzpatrick. Dr. Fitzpatrick is the executive director of the Jung Center, and he's joining us this morning. He was on the show about a month ago. We're bringing him back on a monthly basis to give you some mental health tips and the things that get you through this stressful times we all live in. Good morning. Good to see you, Sean.
Good morning.
We are going to check with you in a little while. Stand by. But first, we want to welcome a very special guest. We've got one of our presidents joining us now. Dr. Margaret Ford Fisher is the president of HCC's online college, and she's joining us on the show. Good to see you again, Dr. Ford Fisher.
It's so good to see you as well, Todd, and all of the members of the team. You do such a fantastic job. Congratulations to you.
Well, thank you very much. I know folks haven't seen it. You've got a show we run here on HCCTV, and folks can also catch it on our YouTube channel. You want to real quickly tell them about that and what they can expect to see?
Oh, absolutely. The show is called Credential Up Houston. And Credential Up Houston is a show that focuses on all of what is required for individuals to really be their best selves and to have a career that they can be proud of. And so we bring a variety of guests on to talk about various career fields, how we prepare for the future. We also cover a variety of issues sometimes members of our team have difficulty with, like stress-related disorders and so forth, and how we serve our students with special needs. We want our faculty and staff to be aware of that as well. Everyone does a great job, but we want to make sure that we can touch on those essential topics that will help our students to be successful, and that will also help our faculty and staff to provide the quality services that they are so well known for, but we want to continue to deliver upon that. So Credential Up Houston does all of that, and I'm very proud of the show because we've been getting very positive reviews from our viewers. In fact, I was talking to Dr. Billy Reagan just the other day, superintendent of HISD, and he was telling me how pleased he was with the last show that he saw. So we try to bring on guests who are local as well as national guests as well. And I have one that I'm looking at to focus on the culture of online learning as well. And this will be with guests from various parts of the world. So this is something that I think is very exciting, and it will enhance all of what we do. But I want to commend you once again and all of the talented members of the team that we work with to produce and to deliver Credential Up Houston. I invite everyone to tune in and to watch it because there have been some great shows.
And you can watch the show on our YouTube channel. We also post it on Facebook and across social media. We produce it bi-monthly, so you can catch a couple of new episodes each month, and you can check it out. We'll make sure you get a link to the latest episode in the social media post for this show. Dr. Ford Fisher, you're the president of the online college. We're taking classes all online in many cases right now with some lab components on campuses. Let's talk about how students are doing with this. When students come to you normally, they know they're going to take courses online. That's part of your college, but this has happened across the district. What are some of the observations you have made in the last 9 months?
Well, I think the observations that I have made are similar to the observations that educators have found throughout the country, for that matter, is that you have quite a number of students who are not prepared to take online courses. In fact, one of the previous guests that I had on last week, Dr. Douglas Fisher, and his co-author of his most recent book on the playbook for college and university instruction, it focused on all of what the issues have been. Dr. Nancy Fry was a guest as well. And they said this was really crisis learning for many students. And what you find is that for students who are prepared for online, they have familiarity with the learning management system. They have opted to take the online courses. But what we have done is that we have moved all students, for the most part, into online. And the National Center for Education Statistics indicated that from their data from 2019, there were about 16% or few over 16% of the students in the country who had taken at least one online course. And in March, you found that all of the students in March of 2020, all of the students were moved for the most part into online courses. And so many of those students were not prepared. They did not have the technology. They did not have the training. They didn't know what to expect. And so that intimidation caused many of them to do poorly or to drop out. And the question now is, what do we do in order to effectively serve those students? And that's one of the things that we are addressing and that other institutions are addressing as well. We have a shell for all of our faculty. And what we want to do now is to make sure that our faculty members are also feeling comfortable with teaching online. But one of the interesting findings that Dr. Fisher and Dr. Fry mentioned is that it's not the building, nor is it the online delivery method. What it boils down to is the method of instruction. Because prior to March of 2020, there were a number of faculty members who said, I can't teach online. I can't teach. I have to be face-to-face. But with that immersion and that experience, many of them now are saying, I don't want to go back to the campus. I want to teach online. And it's because they are more familiar with it. And as the students and the faculty members become more familiar with using the online modality, as they become more comfortable with it, then they're going to like that, because the faculty members will be able to find various ways to connect with the students. And that, in part, is what it's all about. Is that student engagement, is connecting with the students, whether they're in a building, in a classroom, or whether or not they're learning online. So I think that's critically important.
Well, let me ask you this, because here's the conundrum I'm hearing from the school districts and the districts that are feeding into our system, into all the colleges. A lot of them are coming forward and saying our students are behind right now. We need to get back in classroom, but we can't do so safely yet. Or they're trying to get back in classrooms. In many cases, they're having to shut schools down, send the school kids back home, and they're disrupting the learning pattern in the delivery. In HCC's case, in many community colleges, we're already getting students from the high schools who aren't yet prepared for college. What are we going to face for the next few years if students are continuing to be graduated through the high school system, but they're not ready yet?
I think that's a long-standing issue that we want to contend with. And frankly, it becomes a national security issue if we have a large population of the residents of our country who are ill-prepared to move into key roles, whether in government, whether in the sciences, whether in education, across the board. I think that's problematic. So I think it's a matter of partnerships. As we develop the strategic alliances with public schools, with private schools, with business and industry, it seems that there would be one uniform message that all of us could agree to ensure that the students get the preparatory training early on to be able to utilize those options, whether or not they're going to study online or whether they're going to a physical location to study, that they're well equipped and that they can progress through their studies, because we know that all students are capable of learning. And it is a matter of providing them with the preparation, with the support that is needed in order to help them through the educational pipeline. And we do know as well that students learn at different rates, at different paces, and in different ways. And so as we make that a part of our vision, as we work with the students who are having difficulties, who are struggling, then I think we will be much more effective in serving all of our students.
Dr. Ford Fisher, you're kind of touching on this, but I wanted to, my final question I wanted to ask you. I know HCC has a number of partnerships where we're now involved with the ISDs in the classrooms, reaching out to their students, getting them trained to where they can seamlessly transfer to HCC and then move on into a career, whether it be plumbing or welding or any type of career. Let's talk about some of the initiatives that you're working on with the online college.
Well, with the online college, one of the things that we're looking at is how we can now help to create additional career pathways for students. I've had several conversations with some of our partners in the city at various other institutions. I'll give you one example. We know that self-driving vehicles, autonomous vehicles, will be absolutely the state of the art.
Right.
By 2030. This is what we have been told. And so we've worked with Metro, we've worked with the city of Houston, we've worked with Texas Southern University, and most recently with Carnegie Mellon University to talk about how do we now move forward in order to provide that preparatory training that our students across the board would be able to prepare for. The state legislature in 2017 passed the bill and to become a law that would then start focusing on how we now move forward with autonomous vehicles. So we will need to prepare students, whether they're in high school or college, for all of those fields that are going to allow them now to go into high-paying career fields pertaining to autonomous vehicles, whether we're looking at the automobile, whether we're looking at maritime, whether we're looking at truck driving, whether we're looking at aviation, all of those career fields. And then what we're talking about is looking at not just STEM, but we're looking at the arts as well. We're looking at persons who can become technical writers, persons who are in the engineering field, et cetera. So we're working on that because we see that we can then create that ad or that commercial or that public service announcement that would say, students who are well equipped with C++, who understand the AI, students who are studying in robotics, students who are really very good in calculus or some of the other mathematical fields that will allow them to perform well in the industry. This will allow them then to get a good paying job that will serve our country, and we will be competitive. And we know that it's not reinventing the wheel, because the institutions that have been very successful with this, we can look at Carnegie Mellon, which has been a far leader for over 30 years. We can look at Michigan and all of what they have in place. We can look at Argo AI, and I'm going to reach out to the Argo AI team members to bring them on to Credential Up Houston as well, to talk to us and to share with us some of their findings and some of the ways that we can then accelerate what we do. And then it's a message to the public.
Sure.
This is what is on the horizon. In fact, there are jobs that are available now in Texas as you look at autonomous vehicles and how we now equip our workforce in order to be able to fill those jobs. I think that's going to be key. So that is one example of how we're moving forward, and there are others as well.
Dr. Ford Fisher, that's very exciting stuff you're talking about, and certainly an industry that's on the rise, and that, it just certainly makes sense for us to move into it. We appreciate you being on the show this morning.
Well, thank you so much. I'm always delighted. So thank you very much for the invitation.
Thank you. Have a good day and stay safe.
Thank you so very much. And you as well.
All right, we're going to move on to Dr. Sean Fitzpatrick with the Jung Center here in Houston. It's good to see you again, Sean. Thanks for coming back on the show, and we look forward to having you here on a monthly basis to talk about mental health.
Todd, thank you so much for having me back. And Brittany, too, it's good to see you again.
So I want to start off by just kind of throwing something out there. COVID obviously changed our lives, been around for 9 months, possibly longer here in the States, and we still haven't gotten back to a normal way of life. Don't even know if we're going to. You hear so much on the news. There is a vaccine on the horizon, but the hospital cases are going up. Yeah. It's still condition red here in Harris County. What do we think here? Because you've got so many opinions coming in, and everyone seems to have anxiety over this.
Yeah, and I think that's it. During the pandemic, one of the parallel phenomena that we've had is a kind of mental health pandemic as well, right? The figures in terms of, increases in domestic violence, increases in suicidality, the studies that I've seen so far, just in terms of checking just general, the increase in diagnoses of anxiety and depression related disorders are going up, and the prescription of medication is going up as well, all of which is really completely understandable. There's a word that gets used a good bit, a trauma, that is got a psychological meaning as well as a physical meaning. And trauma, really in its simplest form, is just experiencing a threat to life. And out of that experience of a threat to life, you can then perhaps be diagnosed with things like PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and acute stress disorder, and so on. Don't have to be. When we do experience threats to life, we have emotional reactions to that. And so I want to just introduce the idea that all of us are experiencing some level of trauma right now, because we are experiencing a threat to life. And so if we were thinking in diagnostic terms, we're thinking about challenges to our life that maybe impair our functioning. What we're really looking for are having intrusive thoughts and images, which I know from talking to patients and people in the community is common for sort of concerns that sort of push in on us. Another is avoidance, and we're all engaged right now in very deliberate and thoughtful and important acts of avoidance of potential threats to our lives right now, by staying home and by avoiding the kinds of social contact we would have normally. And the last is what we call hyper-arousal. And that simply means that we see threats everywhere. And honestly, that's become normal during the pandemic, is that we imagine and real threats in the world around us in form of this virus that we can't see. So we have to imagine if we're going to remain safe. So I think it's useful to just say we are experiencing reactions to trauma right now. Yeah. And what we want to focus on is what is within our control. We want to focus on the kinds of behaviors that will make us more safe without unduly impairing our ability to live our life, right, in a healthy way. Right. And but also to allow ourselves to create some distance between ourselves and those things that we can't control. That if we're spending a lot of time worrying about things that are outside of our control, it doesn't do us any good. It ties up energy that could be put in maybe more productive or useful directions.
Well, you make an excellent point there. I've learned over the last 20 something years or so that, I'm not in control of a whole heck of a lot. Yeah. And I'm good with that. I'm good with that. I don't need to manage everybody else's lives. One other thing that's still bothering a lot of people, the election is over. It's been over a month, maybe more, but it's still a hot topic out there. Still, we're very divided as a nation. And a lot of people have different views. And you look on social media and people can be extremely intolerant and just downright mean and angry. And what would be your suggestion there? Sometimes I just have to turn off the news, put on METV, or in the background, play a little 70s on 7 and just relax and just disconnect for a while. What are your suggestions there?
It's interesting you mentioned social media immediately. I've had I've noticed, actually, wasn't a conscious choice. I noticed about 2 months ago that I just stopped logging in. Like I would know it'd be normal for me. I'm not a big social media person, but I would check in on, Instagram and Facebook and like things. And I just can't even open the apps anymore. And I think that's a function of the intensity of the political discourse. And I think last time we talked about doom scrolling and this phenomenon that you can sort of get sucked into, story after story after story that raises our, we feel more and more intensely, whether that's anger or fear, right? And we just can't get off of that merry-go-round. So I'm a very big proponent of being aware of how you are experiencing the media that you're consuming and stepping off. I think the divisions that we've experienced, certainly, I'm coming up not too far away from 50 years old. In my lifetime, I've not seen anything like what we're experiencing right now. Yeah. And if I was going to give any piece of advice about it, one, it's set limits for yourself. Notice what's actually happening and how engaged you are and how useful or not useful that is in your life. But the second thing I would suggest is that if you get caught, as I know we all do, with people in our lives who we care about, but we see the world very differently than they do. Notice if you get in a conversation like that, and if you choose to continue to have that conversation, pay attention to what that person is feeling. Head toward the story that underlies that person's belief. What we want to do is repersonalize each other and get out of this demonizing cycle, this very vicious cycle of not seeing each other as human beings, each of us with good intentions and strongly held values that come from really honest places within us. And so if we do choose to continue in conversations that are conflictual, that I would just suggest that you shoot for understanding and not persuasion.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are some good tips, especially now as we head into the holiday season, which is always can traditionally, even before 2020, the holidays were always hard on many people just because they may not have all their loved ones with them, or they're maybe single or alone and don't have anyone to spend time with. So it can be a troubling time. Sean, before you go, I do want to give a plug for the Jung Center. Maybe you can tell us about where you're located. I think last time we talked, you weren't open, but you were doing things online. Is that correct?
That's correct. It happens that today I am actually in the building, which for many of us, including y'all, has not so much been the case, right? We are physically located in the museum district, right next door to the Contemporary Arts Museum on Montrose Boulevard. We have been doing online education for several years, and of course the pandemic has just accelerated that. So most of what we do is happening online. We anticipate that in January or perhaps February, we will be reopening in a limited way so that the gallery can be open. Yeah. People can come in, but our classes will stay online, and it's everything from how to improve your relationships to dealing with strong emotion, anger, and the central questions about meaning in people's lives, which we've never had at a time. In my lifetime, where connecting with what matters most in our life has been more important as a way of sort of checking in with our compass and making decisions about where our energy is best spent.
Sean, it's always wonderful to speak with you on the show, and we look forward to having you here on a monthly basis. And hopefully when this is all over, we can catch up and get a cup of tea or some coffee or some time.
I would love that. Thank you all so much. Thank you so much for what you're doing at HCC. It's just a pleasure to spend time with y'all.
Thanks, Sean. We'll see you next month.
Okay. Sounds good. Bye, y'all.
All right, we are going to move on to Brittany. And Brittany, we've got a few minutes left. We want to cover some announcements, but there's a few things going on which are happening remotely. And then we have some limited things going on campuses in a very unique, safe way. One of them's happened at the Southeast College.
That's right. So today, HCC Southeast Campus held its second ceremony for HISD dual credit students to sign commitments to complete their 2-year Merrick Construction Academy program. Now, if you didn't know we have this program, now you do. But this year's ceremony was different. Students and their families parked in the Southeast parking lot. before being called up to sign their commitment forms. HCC Chancellor Cesar Maldonado, HCC Southeast President Melissa Gonzalez, and Merrick CEO Stan Merrick were among those congratulating them. This great program allows HISD students to spend a portion of their school day at HCC Southeast, learning construction skills and earning a level 1 certificate, all taught at no cost.
You know, this is a prime example of what we were talking to Dr. Ford Fisher about earlier, about these partnerships we have that are reaching into our high schools, training the students while they're going to high school, getting them into HCC afterwards so they can graduate with a certification and then get out there in the workforce. And guess what? They don't have to get a 4-year degree. They can certainly choose so if they want to, but they can go out and make a very viable and profitable living.
Absolutely. And even when we spoke with a representative from construction trades here at HCC, the very fact that we are always going to be in need of skilled specialists in construction, plumbing, HVAC, and that kind of thing. And we have those programs here at HCC to help students, specifically high school students, to get their foot into the workforce and start making money, because those trades, Todd, are booming in the sense of making that coin. People hear me out. And just having a skill set that not many possess.
Yeah, I mean, these students get out, they make a very viable living. And like you said, this particular program is at no cost. So congratulations on that. For all of our partnerships, check our website, do a little research, and you can find out all of our partnerships. Check out the dual credit program, parents. That's another program that's at no cost for our in-district students, and it's certainly incredible. So it's a big week for many of our students because many of them are graduating. Congratulations to all of our graduates. We've got a number of activities lined up for you leading up to the graduation commencement ceremony on Friday. There's a lot to mention, so there's too many to mention. So if you want to go to one website, go to hccs.edu/graduation. Another thing we didn't get to mention yesterday, Brittany, but real quickly, belonging and awareness resources during winter break. These are some very important things you need to be aware of.
Right. So talent and engagement is reminding our faculty and staff about resources available during the winter break. And these resources include drug and alcohol prevention, employee assistance program. I'm utilizing that right now for my MBA, sense of belonging and connectiveness webinar, and COVID-19 essential resources for faculty and staff. All of this is available to, once again, our faculty and staff. Check your HCCS email and our website for the links.
And with another important subject, food insecurity. It's a real problem around the Houston area, and HCC is trying to reach out and help our students in need. The Eagle Food Market, Student Life and Rec Sports, they're hosting the Eagle Food Market, and it's now available on several HCC campuses, but you must register ahead of time. All HCC community members can sign up and receive free food by using a registration form. Then you choose a campus, date, and time. You can send your emails to register to hcc.cares@hccs.edu. We'll have the link to that in the social media post for this show. And finally, Brittany, I want to mention to students that now's the time to register for the spring. I know there are a lot of our students out there who are taking classes right now in the fall, but you want to register for the spring. You haven't done it yet. Well, now's the time to do so because, Brittany, classes on campus, they will be scaled down.
They will, Todd. And before we really delve into that, I do want to remind students that we do offer a winter mini-mester. I just love saying mini-mester. I wanted to say mini-mester. We do have that available during our winter break. And in case people are wondering when the actual dates of winter break falls, we will be out beginning December 21st all the way through January 3rd, and classes, well, no, not classes. We will resume our work January 4th, and Up to the Minute will return as well. But in regard to spring classes, we do offer all 4 options, 2 online as well as 2 in person. But as you said, we are scaling back to adhere to social distancing regulations. Now, at this time, we are going to offer everything. However, if the rise continues in Houston, we're going to have to scale that back, probably all the way back to online classes. But be sure to secure your classes by going to hccs.edu/now.
One way or another, students, get this right. We are having classes. We're going to get you through this. You are going to keep on your schedule, and we're going to do our best to make sure that happens. One final thing I want to mention, because I talked to them last week. They were saying, hey, can you talk about our virtual transfer fairs? Yes, we can. And Brittany, they are happening online, and you can check their website for dates. And we're talking about certain colleges that will be making presentations to recruit our students.
Yep, those colleges will include Prairie View A&M, Texas A&M, all branches of U of H, go Hawks, and all branches of UT. So you can check out these virtual college transfer fairs for dates and times by going to hccs.edu/transferfair.
There was one final thing about tomorrow that I know our producer wanted us to mention. Did you get that email?
I did get the email, Todd. So we're going to be joined tomorrow by the business technology program, and they're going to be talking about how they have dealt with instruction during COVID, their recruitment for new students, and their plans for the future.
All right. So there we go. They'll be on the show tomorrow. So we look forward to seeing you on our show tomorrow. Brittany, thanks for being here. We'll see you tomorrow.
I will be here tomorrow. Everyone else, join us tomorrow morning for Up to the Minute at 10 a.m.